Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby, and this video is going to highlight the changes to the tank destroyers coming in 8.11. It's going to highlight all of the nerfs, and it's also going to tell you which tanks are unaffected. Firstly, let's take a look at the quite dramatic changes to the AMX 50 Foch 155, which is the Tier 10 French tank destroyer. So guys, you Foch 155 drivers, I have one myself, we've been hit pretty hard actually. Apparently, according to the patch notes, they have fixed the armor of the Foch 155, the Foch, and the AMX AC MLE 1948. So let's just take a quick look at what fixing the armor of the Foch 155 actually means. So here we have the regular Foch. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot so we can compare them, because this is from the 8.10 server. Now we're looking at the Foch armor of 8.11, and I'm just going to take another screenshot and then highlight the differences for you gentlemen. So here's our 8.10 Foch and here's our 8.11 Foch. One of the interesting things that you'll see if I just zoom in for a bit on here and on here is that the 120mm band of armor is now gone. What that actually means is that the lower plate has been nerfed effectively from 120mm to 100mm. Interestingly as well, the side armor has been nerfed from 50mm to 40mm, so it's going to be even more vulnerable to HE ammo from the side. Top of the tank has also changed from being 40 at the back to 20, and 50 here to 30. This area has been nerfed from 120 to 100. The spaced armor on the gun remains unchanged, but interestingly we can now see that there's a two-tiered armor approach to these viewports up here. Previously it was 180 all round, now it is 100 and only 80mm on the top. And over here, previously this was all 120mm with a band of 180 at the bottom. Now the 180 band is still there. There's only 100 here, and there's 80 here. These changes will make the Foch 155 ridiculously vulnerable to HE damage, and the frontal weak points have just been absolutely crippled. We're seeing 50% less armor here. We're seeing over 50% less armor here. If you're engaging a Foch in 8.11, the cupolas are now so easy to penetrate as long as you hit the top part of the viewports, or even if you just avoid hitting the center part of this MG port here. But even the center part of the MG port is only 100mm, and it's very flat, meaning that's almost a guaranteed pen, a bit like an M48 cupola. The lower plate nerf by 20mm is also pretty brutal, and it's interesting that they would pick out the Foch 155 for such brutal nerfs without really targeting the other tanks. I personally feel that Wargaming need to be more upfront about when they release such vehicle balance changes. It's not a fixing of the armor, it's a massive nerf of the Foch 155 armor. So with regards to the Foch 155, there are two massive nerfs for this tank, simply massive. The engine power has now been reduced from 1,200 to only 1,000. Now this still gives it a fantastic horsepower to ton ratio, but you can definitely feel this change when playing the Foch, and it's much more challenging to be able to get up quickly to your 50km/h top speed limit. Looking at the gun, we can see that the alpha damage has been changed from 850 to 750, and there has been no rate of fire increase for the Foch. Also, the heat ammo has been nerfed to 395mm. Now we're going to look at the changes to all the other Tier 10 tank destroyers, starting with the American tank, the T110E3. The T110E3 gun has been nerfed from 850 to 750, although it has received a slight rate of fire increase. This also applies to the T110E4, that it has gained a rate of fire increase, but it has lost that 850 alpha damage. One of the biggest nerfs to any of the tanks is the Object 268. The Object 268 has had its track traverse speed decreased from 30 to 28. Its gun dispersion while moving has increased by 11%, which basically makes it less accurate immediately after it is finished moving. Also, the penalty from turning the tracks on the accuracy of the tank has been increased by 11%. Also, the max reverse speed of the tank, which was a very healthy 18km/h and was one of the big differences between this and, for example, the E3, has been changed from 18 to 15. Now, the rate of fire has been slightly buffed on the Object 268, but the reloading speed has only been changed from 17 seconds to 16.5 seconds. When you compare this with the E3, which went from 18.3 to 17 seconds, this means that the Object 268 is not really that ridiculous ridiculously high DPM gun compared to the other tank destroyers that it was, especially considering that the alpha damage has been changed just like it was on the other tanks. Now, one of the best changes that I've found on the Object 268, and I feel that this was a needed change, was the nerfing of the heat ammunition from 450mm of pen, which can almost derp its way through anything in the game, to 395mm of pen. This is still a hell of a lot. I mean, 395mm of pen is still huge, but it definitely gives heavy and super heavy tank drivers that chance to bounce heat rounds from the Object 268. Now, the Waffenträger Alf E100 has had some nerfs as well, although nothing to do with the guns. The nerfs are to the track traverse speed, which has been reduced from 30 to 26, and that's quite a lot of the maneuverability of the E100 removed. And the turret dispersion using the 128mm has been increased dramatically by 212%. Now, the turret dispersion using the 15cm has been changed by much less, although it still has been increased by 75%. And also the actual turret traverse of the tank has been changed from 24 to 22. What this means is that the Waffenträger Alf E100 will take longer to aim, but having played this tank myself on the test server, the 1.5 second aim time when you combine it with, for example, an enhanced gun laying drive still feels like nothing. And even if you drop the enhanced gun laying drive out, like what a lot of people will do, and for example use binoculars, or some people like to use a super heavy spall liner, your aim time is still fantastic, and it's a much needed balance change, because previously the Waffenträger barely had to aim at you for more than a split second before it could very accurately fire at your weak points. What this basically means is that the only tank destroyers that maintain their current performance are the FV215B183 and the Jagdpanzer E100. Now, I think in the future the FV215B183 will be in line for a Hesh nerf. I feel that the tank is fairly balanced, apart from the fact that its Hesh ammunition is just ridiculously high alpha damage. I think that all these changes really benefit the Jagdpanzer E100. The fact that it's just got that so much more alpha damage compared to the other tanks, and the fact that some of them, such as the Object 268, have had their heat rounds nerfed, means that its armor now may count for more against tanks that are willing to fire premium rounds at you. Now, what do I think about the 850 to 750 change? Well, overall, it's just a nerf to everything apart from the FV215B, the Jagdpanzer E100, and the Waffenträger Alf E100. Those three tanks retain their DPM, while the others will have significant hits. It will make massive changes in the gameplay. Previously, for example, heavy tanks or medium tanks might be able to shoot a tank destroyer 2 or 3 times for every time they fire back at them. Now the game has changed, so to say, and you might only be able to shoot them twice. And in some tanks, you might only be able to shoot them once before you have to rapidly pull back, otherwise you're going to get stung again. For tanks such as the E3, the rate of fire change might actually be beneficial. You quite often have to waste shots, and the rate of fire increase might give it a chance to be able to re-engage another target. The rate of fire increase to the Object 268, however, is much more paltry, and considering all the other nerfs to the tank, especially to the heat ammunition, the tank is gonna be heavily gripped. But the biggest loser of the patch is the Foch 155. It loses its alpha damage, it gets no rate of fire increase, it loses a huge percentage of its engine power, and its armor has been absolutely butchered. I think these tank destroyer changes were needed because we were starting to see teams with maybe half or even 2/3 tank destroyers quite frequently on the regular server. This will definitely discourage people from only playing tank destroyers and move them back towards playing more heavies and mediums. I personally wasn't playing the Foch 155 because I felt it was very boring. There was a hell of a long time waiting in between your engagements. And for me, I like continuous action and to be involved in the fight all the time. But I probably won't be playing the Foch 155 at all in the next patch. Losing that 300 damage from its burst is huge. Losing its mobility is bad enough, but now being able to be penetrated by nearly every tank in the game reliably frontally, that's just really nasty. And the fact that the other armor on top of the tank, the side of the tank, has been absolutely butchered means that a tank that was very vulnerable to artillery fire and to HE explosions is now truly going to be a very, very soft target. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider rating it down below. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know what you think about the tank destroyer changes in the comments. Do you think they were necessary, or maybe you're a tank destroyer driver that this is a step too far and you're going to be seriously unhappy with the game in 8.11. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.